Inside the stories that affect you. This is Inside KELOLAND.
Adventurous, courageous, and a big heart. That's how the family of a 17-year-old is remembering the teen after he drowned last weekend at Colville Lake. Sean Briggs and a friend were on the lake when their kayaks overturned. Rescue crews spent hours searching for Sean. His mom, Michelle Fox, says Sean was trying to save his friend. Now, this drowning is also bringing awareness to water safety at this time of year. Jeremy Rowe with the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks Department joins me to talk about staying safe on the water. Well, Jeremy, thanks for joining us for Inside KELOLAND.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And you've seen your share of water rescues, water emergencies. How emotional of a time is that for families that are involved? Yeah,
it's very emotional. You know, when some of these families are going through, the worst times that they're going to go through in their life. So, yeah, it's very emotional on the families and on the officers.
Yeah, what kind of an impact does it have on the officers having to respond to something like that?
Yeah, it definitely can have a lasting impact on them. I mean, we definitely do everything we can to try to, either hopefully have a rescue or a recovery to, sometimes bring closure to the families as well. So.
How often do we see drownings in the state of South Dakota?
It varies from year to year, but it's, on average, I'd say about 6 a year for the state of South Dakota. The big thing is this time of year, right around the 4th of July, is when we see definitely a few more that happen, throughout the state right around this time of year. So.
And Game Fish and Parks will be out in force on the 4th of July patrolling these lakes. Tell us about that.
Yeah, right around the 4th, pretty much every officer in the state will be on the water, and we'll be, checking for safety equipment to keep everybody safe, along with alcohol, if people are drinking on the boat. So we check for all that stuff. But yep, we'll be out all over the 4th, the weekends before and the weekends after. So.
Now, you mentioned alcohol. That's a big factor in these types of boating and mishaps. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it seems like, the biggest concern we always have is people that just don't know their limits when they're out on the lakes and they drink too much. A lot of them don't even know that they are drinking too much, just out having a good time. So we definitely encourage them to know your limits and to have a sober driver, if possible. So.
What are the penalties for boating under the influence?
Yep, so if you are charged with boating under the influence, you do go to jail, for the night, and it's a Class 1 misdemeanor to boat under the influence. So.
And we're seeing more cases of that on South Dakota lakes, right?
Yeah, every year we seem like we see a few more every single year that our officers are coming to encounter with the BUIs, the boating under the influence.
And drinking when you're outdoors in the summertime is a lot different than like having a beer on your couch at home. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the people that are in the sun and all day and they're having fun with friends on the boat and they're not drinking water or whatnot, that can have a lot quicker effect on people. So we definitely encourage them to have a sober driver at all times.
Talk about the importance of wearing lifeboats. Who is required to wear one, and what kind of ages are we talking about, and that kind of thing?
We definitely encourage everybody to have, a life jacket on when they're on the water. It's not required to wear one at all times unless you're under the age of 7. Then anytime your boat is underway, you have to have one on that child. But you do have to have a life jacket for everybody on board in your boat at all times. So we definitely encourage you to wear them. A lot of our drownings that we do see can be prevented, if they had a life jacket on.
And a lot of these drownings do happen when people are jumping off boats and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it seems like that is where we see probably the most of them, where people are jumping off boats, having a good time and not thinking about it. And a lot of the people can swim that unfortunately do drown. It's not people that can't swim all the time. So.
Why is that? What is it that even good swimmers are at the risk of drowning? What is it that leads to them losing their life in these situations?
Sure, we've seen all different sorts of things. Sometimes they come up and hit their heads, or they dove in and hit a rock, or they go down deeper than they thought they would, and then as they come up, they suck in water, and then unfortunately, then they can possibly drown. So it's a lot of factors that go into it.
And what about near drownings? We see a lot of those too, right? The people who are probably revived and whose lives were saved.
Yeah, especially on the Big Sioux and on the James River, our fast-moving waters. We do numerous rescues a year. Along with Sioux Falls Search and Rescue and all them guys. We rescue. I couldn't give you an exact number, but at least a half a dozen every year where people are close to drowning. That luckily somebody saw them, was able to give a phone call, and we're able to get them out of the water safely. Sometimes.
How has the wet spring, has that added to the dangers in the water? Tell us about that.
It has, especially on our small rivers. They're obviously out of the banks and they're cruising very fast. So people that are kayaking and canoeing down the Big Sioux, the James, and all the rivers across the state that are moving a lot faster rate, and they're a lot deeper than normal. So we definitely encourage people to have those life jackets on them at all times, because the rivers are different, especially when they're at flood stage.
What should people do when they may see somebody who's in danger or somebody who is drowning? What can be done about that?
You know, we definitely don't want them to put their lives at risk if they can help it, but you know, if they can help it anyway, definitely, you know, try to call 911 right away, and hopefully get some of us out there to try to rescue them.
Talk about the importance of knowing CPR in a situation like that.
Yeah, if you know CPR, I mean, that saves a lot of people's lives, and if you don't know CPR, I mean, when in doubt, do compressions. You know, if you have someone that, you know, sucked up some water in their lungs and they do get them on shore, you know, just start doing compressions until paramedics arrive.
Well, you know, we got summer officially starting now. We got 4th of July not all that far away. What do you recommend that families do to enjoy to ensure a safe and fun time on the water?
We definitely encourage everybody to have fun and safe. I mean, boating and swimming is a huge pastime of South Dakota, and everybody loves to do it. We just ask that you wear, you know, life jackets at all time and be thinking about that stuff as you go out on the weekend, and to check your boats to make sure you have them life jackets. Don't just think you have them all the time, and be wearing them, and then always have a sober driver.
Okay, well, good advice. Well, thanks for joining us, Jeremy.
Yeah, you bet.
And the generous gift of carrying another couple's baby. What it really means to be a surrogate mom. That story is next on Inside KELOLAND. To plant or not to plant? That's the question many farmers are finalizing their answers to this summer. An excessively wet spring after a moisture-filled fall means several in southeast KELOLAND are not throwing in the seed. Instead, they're throwing in the towel this year. Matt Holson visits a few operations south of Lennox dealing with the aftermath of spring flooding.
That's a lot of mud. So much, Matt Lowy is spending money to dig out of it at his feedlot south of Lennox.
So I purchased this track loader to be able to get around in there, move some of the mud around, get it to dry, get the pen shaped, and eventually haul some out and that sort of thing.
The facility handles 1,000 head of cattle. Keeping them happy and hungry has been a chore, to say the least.
It's crazy. It's like a dog chasing its tail, you might say, or something. We just feel like we're crazy busy, and then when you get done with a day of work, it's like, I didn't get much accomplished.
Thanks to all the rain, Lowy's focus has been here, tending to the cattle that can use roughly 100,000 bushels of corn a year, most of which the farmer grows himself on 650 acres. Getting that seed in the ground this year, though, has been a challenge. Still, it's one he feels he needs to tackle.
Is it going to be more profitable for me to not plant the grain and buy it, or is it going to be maybe take a reduced yield and market it through the cattle, because buying the corn will come at a cost higher than typically I could sell it for at the elevator.
We visited his farm on a sunny day last week. Matt Lowy was hoping to do some planting today, but he got caught in a rainstorm last night, and the field is still just a bit too wet for activity. This work is taking place about 6 weeks later than normal. Many fields have been too wet in this area, forcing planting season to crawl along at a turtle's pace.
Finishing up planting some corn and got rained out about 7 o'clock last night, and I have just a few hours to plant to get done with that one. But again, you need to drive and check it to see if it's ready. You can't just wake up this morning and say, okay, now I have to go plant.
We can get close here and look at the mud underneath.
A few miles away, Jonathan and Arlen Hagena just made the decision not to plant in several fields at all this year.
Everybody's in a little bit different situation, but there's a lot of people around here who've hung in the towel.
From the front porch, you can see one of the few fields of corn they were able to make happen. Jonathan says it's been one of the most difficult years in history for the farmers in this area, a place his family has lived for 100 years.
My grandparents grew up in the Depression, which was a time of unprecedented drought, so I'm sure they would be amazed at how much water we're getting right now. The result is the same, though. We're unable to grow a crop. So you can see there's our home place over here. It was too wet on the north side to plant.
Driving around in his vintage 1977 Ford truck, you can see plot after plot unplanted. It's a sad sight to behold.
It's people's livelihood, and it's what we're passionate about and what we do for a living. So it's hard to see all these fields being unplanted.
Fortunately, the Hagena's decision to leave their seed on the shelf doesn't yield a devastating blow thanks to insurance.
This is 1 year. I'm in this for the long haul. We're fortunate that we do have prevent plant insurance coverage, which means that if we're unable to plant, we get some type of payment that it doesn't make us whole, but at least it allows us to survive another year.
Another reason to be positive, Jonathan says the family will get refunded for the seed they purchased 6 months ago that they won't use.
We invest in our farming operation, our equipment. We still have those bills to pay, and we'll be able to cover that and you know, put shoes on the kids for another year and hope for a better year next year.
In the meantime, they plan to spend the summer improving drainage and finding a cover crop. Like the Hagenas, Lowy will also continue to take things one day at a time, depending on what Mother Nature throws his way.
I had to change a little of my plan around, but that's the story of this year, I guess. If you look at the calendar and time's against us, maybe I'm okay planting 85% of what I wanted to, and then worrying about that 15% later.
Every farmer's choices are different, but it sounds like the key is to have faith good things will sprout up eventually.
I would say keep your chin up, you know. As farmers, I think we're optimists because you put a seed in the ground and you trust that it's going to grow and something's going to come from it. And there's nothing we can do to make that happen.
With Eye on KELOLAND, I'm Matt Holson.
Now, the farmers say they normally like to be done with planting by mid-May, which just goes to show you how far behind many of them are. Well, even the most optimistic farmers can have down days, and it's important to talk to someone. Avera Behavioral Health has a free and confidential Farmers Stress Hotline. The number is 1-800-691-4336. We'll be right back. Becoming a parent is both scary and exciting. It's also a dream some people never get to experience. The Orlong family tried to get pregnant for more than a decade. They had almost given up when an unexpected offer arrived. Sammy Bielan introduces you to a family who is expanding thanks to a few very generous friends.
Angela Orlog is an expert with kids. She spends all day, every day running an in-home daycare. Unfortunately, she hasn't been able to have a child of her own.
We tried for about 11 years. Tried naturally, and then that didn't work. We went to an OB, tried some stuff, that didn't work. Ended up at Dr. Hansen's office, the specialist, and we went through IUI and all the shots and the pills and just no luck.
Angela and her husband Travis even started the adoption process and realized that wasn't going to work either. After such a long, stressful, and expensive journey, the Orlogs decided to stop trying. That's when a surprising offer came from one of the daycare families.
I was shocked. I kept thinking to myself, why do they want to do this for me? They're not, I'm just their daycare provider. So I guess I was more shocked, and then I was honored, and I'm forever grateful to them because I wouldn't be in this position without them.
The family was offering the Orlogs their embryos. The other couple had frozen several after having their own struggles to conceive and wanted one of their unborn babies to go to a good home, free of charge. Even with such a generous offer, Angela still knew she couldn't physically carry the baby, so she would need a surrogate. That's when another amazing offer came in.
It was just really sad. I felt terrible because I'm like somebody who can watch somebody else's kids all day and have so much love and compassion for some other person's kid and not have their own makes me really sad.
Jenna Martin also takes her child to the Orlog in-home daycare. She didn't want to have any more kids of her own, but she and her husband agreed she would offer to become a surrogate.
I am super excited. It's a totally different attachment, and I hear it all the time. That people are like, oh, it's going to be so hard to give your baby away, and I'm like, it's not mine. So Angie said it too. It's constantly you having to be like, it's not mine, not my genetics. I'm excited. I'm just the test tube. I'm the incubator. I'm the oven, whatever you want to call me. But it's exciting. I'm excited to see her become a mom.
After piles of paperwork and lots of shots.
I know I did 167 total though. So yeah, I counted.
The embryo was implanted into Martin and a baby girl was growing. Both women agree one of the hardest parts of this entire journey has been the misconceptions around surrogacy, something they hope to change by sharing their unique story.
I don't know, some people make comments like, so somebody's just giving you their baby, and that's not how it is. And other people just assume things about surrogacy. And instead of assuming, I just wish people would ask.
A lot of Midwest people don't, this isn't normal for them. This isn't something that people talk about. This isn't a conversation you have at dinner or whatever. You know, it's one of those things that's kind of quiet and people have a lot of questions. And I guess my thing would be just ask questions. If you don't know, please just ask.
Luckily for anyone who does have questions, these two are more than willing to share. They have a Facebook page dedicated to their journey and helping break the stigma around surrogacy. With Eye on KELOLAND, I'm Sammy Bieland.
Now, since we shot this story, we have an exciting update. Brooklyn Grace Orlog arrived Monday just before 6 a.m., weighing 8 pounds, 2 ounces, and 21 inches long. Everyone is doing great. Congratulations to them. Well, more than 37,000 books collected by you, the viewers. So look back at our Founders Day book drive next on Inside KELOLAND. Welcome back. A popular story you may have missed this week. A big statue in KELOLAND attracts people from all over the country and the world. Dignity of Earth and Sky stands just off Interstate 90 across from the town of Chamberlain. Now the community is trying to figure out how to get more of those visitors onto its main street. Find out how on KELOLAND.com. Well, we spend a lot of time here on KELOLAND Media Group highlighting the people making a difference in our communities. But this past week, it was our own staff rolling up their sleeves for local nonprofits. It's all part of our parent company, Nexstar Media Group's Founders Day of Caring. Our sister stations all across the country volunteered in their communities. KELOLAND's Kelly Volk shows you how our staff pitched in.
Digging into a long to-do list is a job best fit for a teen. That's why it's a good thing a whole Kelo crew is on hand at the St. Francis House, which is a transitional home, helping people get back on their feet. From crafting to counting.
We're busy at work.
To filling up plates at mealtime. There's plenty of work to do.
Just being a part of what they're doing at St. Francis House is just a really big honor and a small way we can help.
Mac and cheese.
And it all helps feed a need.
And it means a lot to our guests when people come in and give their time and see them as people and not the stigma that they are homeless and they, are not people. They are just average people who are rebuilding their lives.
Across town, more helping hands are at work. Here, volunteers are packing boxes for Feeding South Dakota's mobile food pantry program. The service helps fight rural hunger.
It takes more than one person to make all of this happen, and without the community support that we get from everybody and from Kelo, we just can't make this work happen.
We all live in this community and we all want to see it thrive, so it feels really nice to help people and give back.
And when it comes to giving back, there's strength in numbers. In Sioux Falls, Kelly Volk, KELOLAND News.
Another event was a book drive, and thanks to your generosity, it was a huge success. Each of your donations is a valued contribution to Reach Literacy's efforts to provide reading skills to adult learners. We collected more than 37,000 books. I spoke to one donor from Sisseton whose contribution couldn't quite fit into a single box. Candy Anderson turned this rented U-Haul into her personal bookmobile. She drove all the way from Aberdeen to Sioux Falls to deliver the trailer full of books to Reach Literacy.
I cried all the way down here. I'm very happy for this program, and Crystal would be very happy too.
Crystal is Anderson's longtime friend, Crystal Venegas, who died of cancer earlier this month. Venegas left her collection of books, mostly mysteries and other novels, to Anderson. All 23,422 of them.
I said, Crystal, you can't leave me with these books. And she just looked over at me and grinned.
At first, Anderson didn't know what to do with all the books. Then she found out about our book drive and decided that the Reach bookstore would be the best place for them.
I mean, I think it's super generous that, somebody who took, a sadness that their friend passed away, but knew enough that somebody else might want to read their books, and we can help sort those out and give them to the community.
Venegas even kept a record of every single book she owned. It's alphabetized by author. This notebook itself is some pretty heavy reading all its own.
She had to take her whole portfolio along with her wherever she went to make sure she didn't buy a duplicate.
Anderson says by donating the books, she's helping spread Venegas's passion for reading, book, by the thousands.
Crystal is smiling down at us now.
In Sioux Falls, Perry Groton, KELOLAND News. Now, Anderson says she's not much of a reader herself. She says her friend Crystal was a big enough reader for the both of them. Well, now the staff and volunteers are sorting through each and every donation to get them ready for the bookstore. KELOLAND's Sydney Thorson shows you the process.
Books are everywhere at Reach. Volunteers who heard about Monday's big donation, including Lisa Thompson, came running to help.
I got here a little bit before 9 o'clock. We're just sorting books, going through, see what's good, what we can start to sell into the store, what we can give away. We're cooking through them pretty fast.
Reach Executive Director Paige Sarda will take all the help that she can get.
We probably have 30 to 45 volunteers, generally that are pretty consistent helpers. But we had people that reached out and saw the thing on Kelo yesterday, the book drive, and were like, hey, can I come in and help? And we said yes.
While it's a lot of work, all these donations will help Reach teach even more people to read.
It's amazing. I mean, people are super generous, right? We set a goal of 15,000 kind of as a little bit of a joke, hoping that we would probably get like 10,000, and so to get 37,000, it's a lot of books.
Whether it's 37,000, 37, or even 3 books, Reach will take your donations of any number.
If you're not going to read them, somebody else is going to read them. I mean, I pick up old books every week from everywhere, and give people books to read all the time. So like, it's nice to see people giving back, and then hopefully they come back and find a book that they like.
And once all of these boxes are empty and the piles are put away, there will be plenty of selection. In Sioux Falls, Sydney Thorson, KELOLAND News.
And you can find out more about today's topics online at KELOLAND.com. Just click on the Inside KELOLAND section. Now be sure to join us every Sunday following the 10 o'clock news here on KELOLAND TV. That's all the time we have for today. Be sure to join us again next week for more of what's going on inside KELOLAND. Now here's a look at the nature across KELOLAND from photojournalist Mike Simonson.